Hi guys, it's Barb at Quilt Happen, and it is our block of the month video time. So this month we are making block number 5. Yay! I am so very proud of this block because it's my own creation. So I hope that you like it and that you are enjoying my tutorials and follow along with me while I make it. Please remember that this is a step-by-step tutorial, so it shows every single step, designed to help beginners start learning how to quilt. So if you get to a part that you already know and you don't need to watch it, then feel free to skip ahead. I am not offended. I'm not with you, so I won't even know. But otherwise, you know, sit back and enjoy, and I hope you like the block. I don't know what else to say. So anyways, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is grab your packet, and we're going to open it, obviously. And inside I have my pattern. I have my background fabric. It's different this time. I have 2 strips, the apricot and the magenta floral, that are the same size. I have my teal floral, and I have my green teal marbly thing. Anyways, that's going to be the center. So looking at my pattern, I'm going to start with my cutting, and it looks like I'm going to need to cut from we're calling this mint green, a 4.5-inch square from Fabric F, which is what this is. There's my mats backwards. Okay, so yep, that's what I thought. I was just double checking. I did cut these ones to size for you. So these ones are the appropriate size in your kit. If you are making it on your own, it says that you needed to have a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square. So just make sure that you cut that. I'm not going to because it's already cut. Okay, so set that aside. Next one we have is this one, which is the teal green floral on our pattern. And we need to cut this one for 2.5-inch squares. So this piece is cut at 5 by 5. So all I literally need to do is cut it in half both ways to get my 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. So let me move this stuff out of the way and get on that. So, well, let's talk about all of them first, I guess. The apricot and the magenta, you're going to be cutting 4 2.5 by 5-inch rectangles. So on the pattern, if you lay it out this way, which is this way, then you can cut your 2.5-inch rectangles that way. Now these pieces are provided at 5 inches. So you need to have a 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangle. So the first thing you're going to want to do is trim these down to 4.5, and then you can cut 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. And I'm going to do that in just a minute, but we're just going to talk about these for a second. I moved my cutting area, so it'll take a second. And then for the background, it's folded right here, but it's actually kind of large. Also, you may want to go press these before you start cutting because you don't want to cut with some weird wrinkles. It looks like they're not too bad. I think the mint greens, they're already cut for you, but you might want to give it a little press before you start sewing with it. So this one, again, if you lay your fabric out exactly the way I have in the diagram, which is landscape, so you're going to lay it this way, then if you go in here and you cut vertical strips first, then you can get your 3 vertical strips at, oh, they're all 2.5, sorry. They're all 2.5 inches this way, but 3 of them you're gonna cut 2.5 again that way, and then the other ones you're gonna cut into the 4.5 by 2.5 inch rectangles. So just follow the diagram, lay it out the way it is, and that'll be really helpful. And I'm getting ready to go do that over at the cutting mat, so I'll see you over there. Okay, so the first one I want to start cutting with is the, I'm going to do the teal green floral. So this one. This is the one where I need to cut 4 2.5-inch squares. Okay, so you can either lay it on here and put your ruler at 2.5 and cut it that way, and then turn it. Or you can use your ruler, and since it's 5 inches across, I'm gonna go 2.5. So I've got 1, 2.5. So I'm going to line up my edges right here and right here to make sure that it's 2.5, and I'm going to go ahead and cut. So I've got 1, 2, and then this is a half right here. Okay, now I'm actually going to stack them and do it again. Save me some time. Work smarter, not harder. Just kidding. Let's see, and then I'm gonna line up my edges again, and I'm on the half again, so I've got 2.5. Open the rotary cutter, and now I have 4 2.5-inch squares. You do not have to layer them if you don't want to, but you certainly can if you would like. Okay, and then set those aside. Okay, now I'm going to cut the apricot and the magenta. I'm going to layer them right on top of each other. Okay, you don't have to if you don't want to, but you can. And the first thing you want to do is you want to cut it, trim it down to 4.5. So again, you can come over here and you can lay it on the edge right here, because you can see that it's 5, right? I'm not going to worry right now if this is crooked. Really, what I'm really worried about is just making sure that I'm covered on this side so that it's straight. So I have a straight edge. I'm having to fidget a little bit because they're layered. If you were doing them singly, you wouldn't have that problem. No worries. Okay, so now I can actually trim it off at 4.5 right here if I want to. So I could lay my ruler on it and I could go to my 4.5-inch line, which on these mats are really frustrating. 1, 2, 3, 4, because they're not really marked. I should go through and mark them, I guess, but, and then there are dots on the other end. Okay, so I'm going to actually double check with my actual ruler because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4.5. It also, on the ruler, it says 4.5 right there. I actually love these rulers. I'm going to be doing a little ruler tutorial here soon to explain how to use all of these. Okay, so there I've cut it into the 4.5. Now I'm going to turn it. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way. Okay. And I'm going to trim it down to the 2.5-inch strips. So I think what I want to do, since 2.5 times 4 is 10, I'm going to actually square off these ends. So what I did is I laid it a little bit past 10 and a little bit past the 1. So I'm going to lay my ruler on here. I'm going to square off that end. And I'm actually carefully, because I've got 2 layers, I'm going to turn it over. And I'm actually going to square off this end too. I'm just using the lines on my mat. I use my mat and my rotary cutter interchangeably. So you can do it however you want to. So I can either lay this on here and cut 2.5. This mat is really hard for me to see the numbers, so I'm not going to. But also, because the camera is here, I don't have room to put my ruler over there. So I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to actually cut from my ruler. So what I'm doing is I'm going 1, 2.5. And it actually says 2.5 right there. So these rulers are quite fantastic. I was scared of them for a long time, but I got over it because I needed a ruler, and this was the only one I had. And then I learned how to use it, and it's fabulous. So it's one of the things I'll be going over in a future video is how to use these rulers. And also I'm going to have a class in my shop. And double check. Yep, that is 2.5. I knew it was, but I wanted to double check. Okay, so I'm going to now just separate them into the 2 piles. Luckily, these are batiks, so I don't have a right or a wrong on these, so I can just open them up. If you're not using batiks, I highly recommend that you lay them right side up. Okay, and I set those aside. Now, this is my background piece, and I did give it a little bit of a press to get that wrinkle out. This is the one where you want to make sure that you're laying it like this, okay? So, I'm going to pull it out because I can't use the mat because the camera's in the way. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit and I'm going to use the ruler. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to cut each of these, because if you look at the pattern, it's 2.5 inch squares and 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So the 2.5 is going across this way every time. 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Then the rectangles get cut out of these last two strips. So what I want to do is cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2.5 inch strips. Okay, so I'm going to actually make a straight edge. Well, that one didn't cut straight at all, did it? So here is my straight, okay, there's a line. So I'm using the line on my mat and connecting it to up there. And then I just made a straight edge there, and I'm going to actually turn it around and lay it this way so that my straight edge is following a line. I don't care which line right now, and I actually don't even care that this is straight. I just want this side to be straight because that's what I'm going to use for cutting off my 2.5. Oops, oh my gosh. Okay, so that's straight all the way down. I've checked it all the way. So that's a 2.5 inch strip. Another 2.5 inch strip. That's 2. Another 2.5 inch strip. That's 3. And another. That's 4. And then this last one, I'm just going to have to shave off a little bit. But I'm lining up my 2. Oh, it's kind of hard to see on that white, isn't it? A real trick is if it's hard to see right here, pull the ruler off and then slowly move it back so that you can see. And then this is my little toss away piece. Okay, now the next part is I've got all 5 of my pieces. 2 of them are going to be for the 4.5 inch rectangles, so I'm going to set those aside for a moment. And then the rest of them I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 2.5 inch. Cut it this way 2.5 inches. What I mean by that is I'm going to actually, you can do 2 things. You can lay them out like this on a row. See how I'm lining up this edge right here? Okay. I'm lining it all up because I know those are straight. I just cut them, right? I'm lining them up, and then now I can take my ruler and I can actually cut my 2.5 inch strips like this. Or, actually I'm going to flip that one over because this edge is straight. Or I can actually just stack them. And it's only stacking 3, so I'm kind of comfortable with it. Just make sure you give a little extra weight on the ruler when you're cutting so that they don't slip around a little bit. Even then, I think it'll be okay. I am extending them a little bit past because I'm going to make a clean line. And then I'm going to turn it around. I decided that I didn't think that other one was straight enough. So I've done that. Now I've got this whole side lined up, this corner and that corner. And then I'm going to use my ruler again. So I'm going to line up. Try not to slide your ruler around too much since you're stacked. 1, 2.5. Now add just a little bit more pressure. Make sure that it doesn't slide over here, and then I'm going to take that off. Just make sure you put it back if it does slip a little bit. Mine tend to slip a little bit. It's not a big deal. Just be aware of it. And I got one more, and I'm going to make sure that it's all nice and, yep, straight. Okay, and then I only have just a little sliver, little piece cut off. Okay, this gives me my squares. Okay, so that's all my 2.5 inch squares. Now this one is my 2.5 inch strips for my rectangles. So I'm going to, again, stack them because I need to just cut them into 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. So, or you could lay them like this and cut them separate. Again, if you do that, it's fine, but just be wary that you need to be careful with your sliding your ruler. You don't want to slide the ruler down here and move one that's farther up. So, totally not a big deal. I'm just going to clean up this edge over here. Okay, trim that off. And then I'm going to flip it around because I like to have my clean edge. Lay it here so that I'm in a corner. Now this time I'm doing the 4.5 inch again. So on my ruler, I can actually go to the 4.5, but I always still count. Even though I know the ruler works, I still count it. So I'm lined up there and, nope, not there. There we go. There and there. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4.5, which also lines up with my number. Okay, so there we go. Make sure it didn't slide down a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to my 4.5. And then you can double check it. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Cut off my extra. And now I have my 4 rectangles. They're there. I just can't seem to get them pulled right out. Okay, there's 4 of them. Trust me. Just trust me. Okay, and that is it for your cutting. So the next step is we're going to start putting them together so that we can sew them. And I will see you back over by the sewing machine. Okay, so we're back over by the sewing machine, and we're going to lay some pieces out for these. And what we're going to be doing first is we're going to be making these magenta and apricot bars. Okay, the first thing I did is I took 4 of the little background squares, the 2.5 inch squares, and I pulled them aside because they're going to go with these, and so I'm going to set those aside for just a minute. Okay, so now what we're working on is the rest of the background squares, and then the apricot and the pink magenta rectangles. So this is not hard, but you do need to pay attention. On the directions, it says that you want to draw your line on the back of each of your background squares. I usually don't do that, but today I'm going to, because you need to make sure that they're going the same the same direction for each color, but opposite of the other color, which, okay, that sounds really weird. But so like, and I didn't notice on the pattern, I didn't say like one will be pink and one will be apricot. You can choose which way you want it to go. It doesn't matter. They're exactly the same, but you want one side, all your pinks are going to be coming this way. So you want all your pinks to be the same, and you want all your apricots to be the same. It doesn't actually matter which one's which, as long as you do them all the same. So you may end up with them in a different order. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to draw the line from corner to corner on the back of each of my background squares. Now, if you have diagonal seam tape, you don't actually have to do this part. You could use your diagonal seam tape and just try to remember which way you're going. That's totally fine. I'm not feeling that great about it right now, and it's probably because it's early morning and I'm tired. But if you're doing this and you can, lay it out the right way, and as long as you do the whole stack the same way, you're fine. I am actually drawing the lines this time because I don't want to mess it up and then have to go back and fix it and all this kind of stuff. I'm running short on time. So, and if you're at all concerned you're going to make a mistake for something that you have to pay attention to like that, then by all means draw the line. It's not going to hurt anybody. I still use my diagonal seam tape. It's just it reminds me of which direction I'm going, of how to lay it on my rectangle. So I drew the lines from corner to corner. I don't know if can you even see those? I drew them light, so maybe too light. Maybe this one's darker. So I do have, oh, there it is. See, I got a line from corner to corner. Now, what you need to pay attention to is which way they're going to go. So on mine, I'm going to have the, I actually wrote on my pattern and I labeled pink and apricot. Okay, so I know which way I want to go. So these are going to be my pinks, and I want my line to be coming down from the left to the right. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to go from the left to the right. Okay, I'm going to double check it with my paper. Yep, it's right. So now I'm going to actually lay them all on here and make like a little pile. What I like to do is make a little trail. So here's my little trail. I've got all 4 of them. So this stack is ready to go. And now I'm gonna take my apricot and I'm gonna lay it the other way. So this one I want to go from right to left. So I'm gonna lay it on here and it's going right to left, and I'm gonna check it on my paper. Yep, that's right. So now I'm gonna repeat that to all of them and make my little trail again. Yep. Oh, can see. That's why I drew the line. It's too early in the morning for this thinking. Okay. All right. So I've got my little trail for the apricot done too. So now what I'm going to do is I am actually going to put this in my machine and I'm going to sew directly on the line. I know in a lot of the blocks we've made so far, we've been sewing on either side, and that's, you know, that's cool because we're making half square triangles. But today you're not making a half square triangle. You're just adding a corner onto a rectangle. So we're going to sew directly on the line on all of them. Okay, so in just a moment, I'll have that all set up and we'll be ready to go. Okay, we are here at the sewing machine. I just hopped over a seat. So I'm gonna put this in and I'm gonna sew directly on my line. You are starting in a corner, so if you feel like you might wanna use a leader, that is not always a bad idea, so you can give it a little gentle tug to get you started. And I am sewing directly on the line. Tired of hearing me say it yet? It's just so easy to slip back into an old mode, you know, if you've made a lot of half square triangles lately. Those were the pinks. Now I'm switching to the apricot. So you notice that it's going a different direction, the way it lays in the machine, because I'm sewing it the other way. Okay, I've got all of them sewn, and now I'm going to use my blade saver, which you can't see on the camera, so I will turn it over here. And I'm going to use my blade saver so that we can take this chain apart. So this is how this bad boy works. Okay, put it right here. So it looks like this little snowflake. I lay it like here, pull up my chain, and then I'm gonna snip these little threads in between just by dragging them on my little opening where my blade is. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend you get one of these because they're amazing. That and diagonal seam tape are my 2 must-haves when I am sewing, because I am a big-time chain piecer. So yeah. Okay. Now I have my cute little stack of bars, and I'm going to go over to the cutting table and we're going to trim off the excess. I should show it on this side. Whoa, can't even see the line on that one, can you? We're going to trim off the excess, the outside part of this, because we want this to fold over like that. So this little flappy part in the back, we're going to just put I'm going to use my rotary cutter, and we're going to cut it 1/4 inch away. If you don't like doing that with a rotary cutter and a ruler, then by all means, get out your scissors and cut them off. So, but I'll see you over the cutting mat. Okay, so I'm ready to trim off my little pieces. I am actually using my small ruler. It's just easier for me. So what I have here, and you'll see, I don't know if you can see the line. Can you see? Yep, there's sewn line. So here's my sewn line. I'm going to put my 1/4 inch on the sewn line, so my edge is on the outside of it. So just, you know, your 1/4 line is right here. This one's nice because it's yellow, but black ones work too. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut it. Well, my rotary blade was cutting. Okay, so it should look like that. Even if you're using scissors, it should still look this way. Okay, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to do all 8 of them. Line up on my 1/4 inch, put the seam or the stitch line on my 1/4 inch, trim it off, put the 1/4 inch on my stitch line. I think that was the appropriate way to say it. Trim it. Okay. Trim it. Okay, now this one's actually, I had to turn my thing the other way. Doesn't matter, just follow the stitch line. Okay. See, now this one looks the opposite direction. So, like that. Pretty cool. Okay, so then I'm gonna, on my stitch line. And if it's not exactly 1/4 inch, it's too big or too small, who cares? It's going to be behind in the back of the quilt. So just don't get close to your stitches. You don't want to get too close. I've done it. I think we all have. Ruler slipped, or I wasn't paying attention or something, and then you end up getting pretty close. If I do get close but I don't cut them, I usually run it through the sewing machine. Oops, sorry. You were off camera. If I get close but I don't cut the stitches, I usually put this in and run the stitch line again just for extra strength. And then if you cut it off, obviously you're going to have to redo it, which is a real bummer. So just be careful. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually press these back. So I'm actually going to go over to the iron here in a sec. And I'm going to just roll these back. I'm going to give them a finger press right now. Roll it back gently and just kind of press it with your finger. You try not to stretch it because you want it to maintain its rectangular shape. So fold it back. Try not to get a ridge. That's also part of it. Okay. Just gently fold it back. I like to roll it from the middle and then just gently go to the sides. Just make sure you don't get a ridge. I know I just said that, but it's important. Okay. Roll it back. Oops, I might have stretched that one just a little bit. You can see this kind of curled a little bit. That's because I'd stretched it a little. You don't want to do that. And as soon as I'm done doing this, I'm actually going to go over and give them just a quick little press. I'm not going to press it. I'm just going to go psh, 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 to, you know, set the seam in there. Okay. I'm not going to show that part because I don't have a camera set up over at the iron, but that is what I'm going to do. Although my iron is portable, I guess I could bring it over here, but whatever. Okay, and it's got a nice press. So I'm going to run over to the iron and I'm just going to give them a nice straight down press. And then we'll be ready to sew the next part. Okay, so I have all of those pressed now. Had them, I dropped them on the floor. Story of my life, I'm always dropping things. Okay, so I have them all pressed, nice and pretty. So now what we want to do is we want to actually make the block unit. So we're going to actually put these together from the pattern and we're going to make that unit. So it shows you right here. basically you just want to pair them up, and you want to have the background pieces going into the middle. So you want to lay it like that. And all I'm going to do, seriously, is just make sure I lay them down, put them like this, see? And I'm going to lay them down on my table right here. And I'm going to just grab them like that and sew them on the sewing machine. So it's nothing tricky. When you are doing this, however, I didn't think about this until just now, they are not nesting because they were both pressed towards the background. So you might want to pick a color. You can either go to the iron and change the direction. For instance, it doesn't really matter, I guess. Well, I'm going to change the direction of the pink. And the reason why is because when it folds over, no, doesn't matter. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking it was going to press towards the background, but I already did press them all towards the background. Okay, so I'm going to change the direction of all of my apricot ones so that they're going towards the bar instead of the background, just so that they'll nest. And I guess, yeah, I should have thought of that earlier. Space that one this time. So you might want to run over to the sewing machine or not sewing machine, the iron, and just give them all the other direction really quick if you want to, and that'll make it easier for when you go to the sewing machine. So in fact, I think I'm going to do that, and then I will be ready to sew them together in just a minute. Okay, so I did go and press those over. So now I have my 2 stacks, but this time when I lay them over my, they're going opposite directions. So this one, the little tab is going this way, and this one, the tab is going that way. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to lock my seams together right here where the point comes together, which is kind of, it's not going to make or break the quilt, but it is nice when they line up, especially when they're coming to a point. So as I grab each one, I'm going to line them up like that. And then just sew your 1/4 inch seam. It's really nice though, because it does make them flat underneath the sewing machine needle or the foot. So it just is so much nicer when they go through that way. Okay, just lay them out so you don't feel any kind of gap between the 2 seams. When you feel that they're close, snug as a bug. Okay, and then just sew away. And you know, this is pretty basic stuff if you putting these 2 bars together. So feel free to skip ahead if you want, but feel free to stick around too. And the last one, there's only 4, so that's nice. Okay. Here we go, and I've got my handy dandy little blade saver again. Cut those little bad boys apart. You can even trim off this little extra thread that was in the beginning. I do that too. I run that right through my blade saver. So it's very useful. Okay. Now my points look pretty good. Let's see, let's check them all. Oh, that's not bad. It's like a millimeter off. I'll take that any day. Perfect. And perfect. So nesting really does make a difference. Now what you're going to want to do is take these 4 little beauties over to the ironing board, and you can either press them one direction or the other, doesn't matter which way, or press them open. It's your choice. So, okay, so here's these little beauties. They're so cute. They're actually, I love these 2 colors together. They're gorgeous. Anyways, okay, moving on. Alrighty, so next step is we need to attach 1 background and 1 teal square together. And remember, we set those aside earlier. We had the 4 that we set aside. They go with these. So all you have to do is just sew them together. It does not matter which direction because they can be turned. This is a non-directional print. If you are using a directional print, you're going to want to maybe lay them out and figure out where they're going to go. But this one is non-directional, so all we have to do is sew them together. So yay, that's easy. Okay, so I am literally just going to sew these 4 together. One on top of the other, just a 1/4 inch from the edge. Just line up the edges and go for it. So simple. And this is the last step, and then we start putting the block together. Always the best part when you get to put the block together, because you get to see the beauty. I'm sorry, there's one more step. Ugh. That's all right. It seems like a lot of steps this week, but they're easy. Blade saver. All my thread and stuff is contained inside of my sewing machine. So the top of my sewing machine has a little like shelf on it. So it lives there, literally. So all you want to do now is you just want to, open it up and give it a little bit of a press. And doesn't matter which way you press. I just press to the dark because that's normal. And you don't have to worry about any seams matching on these ones. So you just gotta give it a press. So I am finger pressing it right now. And if you do a good finger press, you really don't have to go to the iron at this point. I'm probably not going to. When you're gonna press, make sure the color you wanna press toward is always on top. Gently fold it back. You don't wanna do any stretching. You don't wanna make a ridge. And then you are done. My finger pressing is pretty good, so I am not going to go to the iron. You could also seam roll it if you had a seam roller. I don't have mine handy right here, or I'd show you, but that's another option. All we want to do now is take our last of the backgrounds rectangles. We made 4.5 inch rectangles, and what we want to do is make these 4 corner units. So you do want to kind of pay attention to these to make sure that you get them in this arrangement. So I'm actually just going to lay them out to look like that, and then I'm going to grab them and sew them. So the first one, I have a bar on top, and then the teal. Let me see if I can get a closer view for you. Okay, it's kind of a weird angle, but you get what I'm doing. So I'm literally taking my picture here and I'm matching my picture. So I've got, this one has a bar with the teal on this side. So I'm going to do that. Then I have another one where I have a bar on the top also, but this time the teal is on the other side. So I'm going to do that. And then I have another one. This time I've got the teal in the background on top with the bar on the bottom. And then this one I have like that. So I literally made them match the pictures. And now all I'm gonna do is when I grab them to sew, I'm just gonna flip it over and sew it. The beauty of it is you don't have any seams to match on this, so you can just sew away. Just do your 1/4 inch seam and you are golden. And there's only 4, so it's just lovely. Last one. Now this one I just flipped it over, so you know what, I think I may have messed up the side that I was supposed to sew it on, so let me double check them. It happens, and I would rather double check it than have to take it apart and unsew it. Okay, so I'm gonna open these up and make sure I still have all the sets. So that's that one. this one. And they are not all the same. So you could probably change them, but I like my long bars to be facing the same directions. Kind of dumb, but okay, so it goes, yep, like that. Okay, I almost sewed it on the wrong side, because if I would have sewed it on the other side, it would have came out to a different seam. So always best to check. And I am not a perfect sewer. I have never claimed to be a perfect sewer. I try my best, but I'm not perfect. So, you know, stop and double check. So now you can see they make the little square in the middle, which is exactly what that looks like. What that looks like in your pattern. So I'm going to press these, and you know, it naturally wants to go towards the side with no seam. So I'm gonna let it. Now, at this point, I don't need to keep them in order because I'm gonna have to lay them out when I go to put the whole block together anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so, all right, so I'm gonna go give those a little quick flatten with the iron, and then we're gonna come back and put the whole block together, so yay. Okay, so I have all my pieces, and now I'm going to lay out my block. I'm just going to refer to the diagram that is provided right here. So, first thing, you know what, I'm gonna put my center. I'm using my design board, so it's easy to move it back and forth from my iron to my sewing machine to whatever. And then I'm going to lay these blocks out around it. And then these are my corner pieces. Corner, 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 and corner. Okay, it's kind of dumb because what I was talking about before is I like my bars all to be going the same direction. I could have also just turned it and my bar would have just been going the opposite direction. It doesn't matter. It's just me being me. Anyways, so this is our block. And so now what I'm going to do is I am literally just going to sew them together in rows. I'm going to sew this one to this one, this one to this one, this one to this one, and then I'm going to open it up and sew this one to this one, this one to this one, this one to this one. And then I'm going to go and I'll talk about how we're going to press it when we after we get them sewn. So, because remember I'm only going to be doing the rows. I'm not going to sew the rows together yet, not until after I press. Okay. So now I'm at the sewing machine. I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to flip it over. All I did was flip it over. I took it from this side and I flipped it over. But now you got to keep track of which side your seam is. So I'm taking this and I'm putting it on top. So I'm sewing on this side. Sometimes I either grab it straight from there like I just did with my fingers and bring it to the sewing machine, or I might even put a clip on it so that when I'm transferring it over, I don't end up sewing on the wrong side. I didn't use an ender or a leader, so ugh. This is why I should have thought of it, because it's going into a thick seam. Whenever it's a doubled up seam, I always try to start with a leader so you can give it a little gentle tug. Well, now I won't forget which side I was sewing on. Yeah, I did. Do I go down or do I go on the side? Okay, this side. Seriously, just double check. It takes a half a second and saves your life. Now I can use that block as a leader. So again, flip it over, grab the edge that's going to sew together, hold it with your fingers. If by some reason you forget which way it goes, then just lay it down and try it again. Okay, next I'm going to grab my bottom one, pull it over, grab it, so I don't forget which side. It's time to open the store. Okay, and getting out my blade saver. Okay. Now, this one was the top. So I'm going to lay it here. Obviously, I can just look back in the picture too, and then I'm going to lay it here. I know that one goes in the middle because it was the middle piece. And then I know this one is the corner. So at this point, I am going to double check it with my pattern to make sure my pattern's on the table, but I'm looking at it just to make sure I have it right, because you know, you don't want to unsew. Now I'm flipping this one on top of here, keep track of the seam side, I should say. This is lovely because there's no matching seams. I didn't need a leader on that one because it was a small. They were thin. And then flip this one on and straighten it up. Oh my gosh. It up, blade saver. Okay. So this is my top, middle, bottom, bottom. Okay. Curious what it would have looked like if you would have done it the other way. Nah, don't like it. You'd have to do all three and I can't check it. Anyways, so what I want to talk about now is how we're going to press these. So I want all my seams to nest. So these ones, this one wants to go in because there's no seams. I'm going to let it. So I am actually going to give this a nice little finger press towards the middle. Okay. Finger press it towards the middle. Okay, so since that one is pressed towards the middle, I want these ones and these ones to go towards the outside. So I'm going to give it a finger press, but I want it to go towards the outside. So towards the outside. This one, towards the outside and towards the outside. I'm going to go psh, 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 with the iron really quick to make sure it's flat. I really like this stage flat before I sew them together, because what'll happen is if you don't, you'll get some waves in your fabric, in your block. And then when you go to quilt it, you've got bubbles. And, you know, it can fold your fabric, or it can just make it not quilt as nicely or as unevenly. So some sides parts are more puffy than others. So anyways, I'm going to go and I'm going to give those a quick little press, and then we'll come back and we'll sew the rows together. Okay, so I gave each one a little press. So just a smash with the iron, nothing major. So now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it on top of the middle one, and I'm going to line up these seams. And since I press them in opposite directions, I can nest them now, so that when I go through the machine, the sewing machine, I can keep them together. Now, if you want at this point, and there's only 3 seams, but still you could pin it. Or if you're just worried that they're going to come apart, you know, after you've worked on putting them together, you can do a pin, or you can even use a Wonder Clip. Mostly when I'm lining up a lot of seams, I prefer using pins. However, this one isn't such a huge big deal. I'm going to line it up again as I'm going through the machine. So holding it in place is kind of easy with the Wonder Clip on this particular one. But if I was doing anything bigger, I would definitely be using pins, or if there were a lot more to match up. And some people don't use anything. They just go for it. Okay. Now, my seam a little off here, so very carefully. There we go. Like I said, I am not the world's most perfect sewer, so sometimes you got to be really careful so that you don't, you know, end up missing a seam or something like that. So, because my one spot turned out to be a little bit smaller, no biggie, we got it. Okay, so I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to flip this one up, and I'm going to sew it on. Again, because they were nested, they're going to match, so I'll just put a little clip there. And I will do a little clip here. Then I'll grab my ends, line up, and go for it. Sorry, I'm concentrating. You can always tell when I get quiet, right? It's not my normal. I am not a quiet girl. So now you open it up and you've got all of your pieces, and my seams are pretty darn close enough for me. So I'm going to go over and press. I always like to press my final seams open. It's my personal preference. You can press it however you like. And then I will see you back when it's all done. So I absolutely love it. I am so excited with how it turned out. So I hope you loved it too. And I hope you had a good time. And keep following me. I'm hoping to be able to expand and have some more videos besides Block of the Month. So, but thank you to everybody who has been following me. I know there's a lot of people that aren't even from my area that are following me. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm really happy that you like my stuff. So have a great day, and I will see you next time.